from the oil and gas industry in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Very distinguished Nigerians seated, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, members of the Fourth Estate of the realm, gentlemen of the press who are here. On behalf of His Excellency, distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and my distinguished colleagues here present, I warmly welcome all our invited guests to this interactive session. I thank you also for your positive responses to our invitation, which effectively marks the commencement of the Senate investigation into allegations of economic sabotage in our petroleum industry. It will also interest you to know that this interactive session is one in the series of engagements that are lined up by the committee in its quest to carry out this national assignment. And before I proceed further with my address, let me inform on behalf of the presiding officers of both the Senate as well as the House of Representatives that it is the considered opinion and decision of the leadership of the National Assembly, comprised of both chambers as a bicameral legislature, that these investigative hearings will be done as a joint committee. In other words, today you are meeting members of the ad hoc committee from the Senate. Our colleague from the House of Representatives will join us henceforth based on a list that will be sent to us by the Right Honorable Speaker. They will send their own representatives and will do everything together as a joint committee. I urge all parties to set aside the ongoing accusations and counter-accusations as we embark on a journey towards uncovering the truth behind these matters of economic importance. This ad hoc committee was set up by the Senate out of genuine concern for the well-being of our nation. Accordingly, I want to assure you that we are all committed to conducting a thorough and impartial investigation across all areas outlined in the Senate resolution of 3rd July 2024. For ease of reference, the terms of reference include to examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard test parameters adopted by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, being exploited to get toxic cargoes into the country. 2, to determine the level of compliance of the Nnpcl's direct sale, direct purchase arrangement in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. 3, to beam legislative searchlight on the activities of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. Also, to inquire from the Nnpcl the state and/or status of the 22 depots built by the defunct NNPC to eliminate road distribution of petroleum products. Further, to engage with stakeholders within the oil and gas industry with a view to identifying possible gaps in regulating and strengthening the surveillance and monitoring structures in place to enable Nigeria to detect violations of best practice standards in the importation of products before they enter into the domestic supply chains. Also, to engage with the Nnpcl with a view to understanding the extent of its determination and timeliness for the startup of government-funded oil refineries, to investigate how institutions across the importation and distribution chain failed to conduct quality sampling, shipped in products without auditing, and performed port validations by the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Standards Organization of Nigeria, and Nigerian Ports Authority, and such other consequential amendments the ad hoc committee deems fit. Distinguished stakeholders, it is imperative that we all approach this process with integrity and cooperation. There will be no room for grandstanding, and I want to make it crystal clear that no one will be exempted from scrutiny. Our collective goal is to serve the overriding public interest, and it is essential that each stakeholder actively contributes towards this noble cause. Before the takeoff of this investigative hearing, however, this ad hoc committee, constituted on the 3rd of July 2024, consistent with sections 88 and 89 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as altered, and in line with the legislative agenda of the 10th Senate, has been carrying out its mandate to perfect our modalities and workings with a view to ensuring fair hearing and resolving deep-seated challenges that have been clogging the functionality of our petroleum industry for decades. Also, you will agree with me that this is truly a challenging period in the recent history of our fatherland. The supply of refined petroleum products has been irregular and problematic. The long queues at filling stations is also a testament to this challenge. A situation whereby we now depend almost entirely on the importation of these products, even when we daily supply the world about 2% of its crude oil requirements, is, to say the least, highly worrisome. We also have at hand a grievous issue of national concern that directly borders on the importation of hazardous and substandard petroleum products. Under different administrations, the federal government invested billions of dollars to maintain and turn around the government-owned refineries in Kaduna, Port Harcourt, and Warri. In 2021, specifically, the Federal Executive Council approved $1.5 billion for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery. Yet, this investment has not yielded significant returns. For us in the Senate, and of course now in the National Assembly, we believe it is unfair and unpatriotic to treat government business as an orphan while private businesses are flourishing. Each of these challenges has put undue pressure not just on our foreign exchange market, but also contributes to the suboptimal performance of our domestic economy, which the executive arm of our government has been taking decisive measures to address in the interest of all Nigeria. While we have absolute confidence in the executive arm to address these challenges, the National Assembly deemed it apt to constitute this ad hoc committee to investigate diverse allegations of economic sabotage in the petroleum industry and develop a responsive regime that will deepen global best practices in the industry. The constitution of this ad hoc committee became highly imperative after an extensive debate at the July 3rd, 2024 plenary of the Senate on a motion on the importation of hazardous and substandard petroleum products into the country. The motion was sponsored by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Niger Delta Development Commission, distinguished Senator Nnpcl, representing Cross River South. Initially, it was a clear case of the importation of hazardous and substandard petroleum products, which the Senate condemned in its entirety. In their contributions, distinguished senators offered diverse perspectives on the implications of such illicit practice for our national economic and security interests. These perspectives, painstakingly offered by the distinguished senators, informed the resolution of the Senate to constitute an ad hoc committee to investigate the alleged economic sabotage in the petroleum industry. It is pertinent to note that in the course of interactions with the identified stakeholders, this committee will visit any of their facilities that it deems necessary, especially the state-owned refineries, to ascertain their status, considering the huge funds already invested in their various turnaround maintenances without any meaningful results. The committee, alongside all Nigerians, is particularly interested in understanding why local refineries are not working, despite the substantial amounts of money spent annually on their maintenance and operations. We will closely monitor what Nnpcl has been doing to address this persistent problem. Our investigation will seek to identify and hold accountable all parties involved in the importation and distribution of the adulterated petroleum products, especially premium motor spirit and automotive gas oil, and such other acts that are detrimental to the operations of the petroleum industry. This includes suppliers, importers, regulatory bodies, and any other entity that may have contributed to lapses in the petroleum industry. We will conduct a thorough review of current regulatory frameworks and procedures to identify deficiencies and recommend necessary reforms to prevent such occurrences in the future. To ensure broad participation and transparency, we have already created a platform for the general public and stakeholders to submit memoranda before the public hearings that are slated to hold from September 10 to 12, 2024. These sessions will enable us to engage directly with key actors in the petroleum industry and unravel those behind the illicit practice of importing hazardous and substandard petroleum products into the country, contrary to established protocols and standards. After the public hearing, the committee will go into closed sessions during which we will consider all the submissions from the key actors and critical stakeholders. Respected stakeholders, why did the National Assembly resolve to carry out this investigation? Will this investigative hearing end up like the previous ones? Can the National Assembly really address the challenges in the petroleum industry, given the entrenched interests of some powerful interests? These are some of the questions the media and, of course, the Nigerian people have been asking in their analysis and reports since the composition of this ad hoc committee on the 3rd of July 2024. These questions may seem difficult, but I am confident that we are on a mission to make a difference by the grace of God. We have accepted this huge responsibility with the resolve to make a difference. We are also staking our integrity and safety in order to develop an efficient and functional regime that guarantees the transparent management of strategic national resources, endears serious investors to our petroleum industry, and creates more opportunities for our people at home and abroad. Why are you here? Every stakeholder invited here plays significant statutory role and collaborates to provide comprehensive oversight, regulatory compliance, security, and policy direction to address and mitigate any act of economic sabotage in the Nigerian petroleum industry. For instance, Standards Organization of Nigeria is responsible for setting and enforcing quality standards for products and services. In this context, it ensures that petroleum products meet specified quality standards, preventing substandard products that could lead to economic sabotage. Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited oversees the exploration, production, refining, and marketing of petroleum and petroleum products in Nigeria. Its involvement is crucial in providing data, operational insights, and identifying potential areas where economic sabotage could occur within the supply chain. Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority regulates the midstream and downstream sectors of the petroleum industry. It ensures compliance with regulations, monitors operations, and can provide insight into regulatory breaches or inefficiencies that might contribute to economic sabotage. The Nigerian Navy plays a critical role in securing Nigeria's maritime borders. In this context, its role includes preventing illegal bunkering, oil theft, and ensuring the safe transportation of petroleum products across Nigerian waters. Nigerian Customs regulates and controls the import and export of oil and gas products to ensure compliance with Nigerian laws and international trade agreements while enforcing standards and specifications. Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission regulates the upstream sector of the petroleum industry. Its role involves overseeing exploration and production activities, ensuring adherence to regulations, and identifying any acts of sabotage or non-compliance that could affect the upstream operations. The Ministry of Petroleum Resources, of course, is responsible for formulating and implementing policies for the petroleum sector. It provides strategic direction, coordinates activities among various stakeholders, and ensures that policies are in place to prevent economic sabotage. Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency is responsible for regulating shipping, maritime labor, and coastal waters. In the context of the petroleum industry, it ensures the safety and security of maritime operations, which is crucial in preventing illegal activities such as oil theft and unauthorized bunkering. Ministry of Trade and Investment oversees trade policies and investment opportunities. Its role involves promoting fair trade practices, ensuring that investments in the petroleum sector are protected from economic sabotage, and fostering an environment conducive to legitimate business activities. The justifications, ladies and gentlemen, continue for every invited stakeholder. And in the course of our public hearing, we also will be industry-specific, agency-specific, in ensuring that it is not a generalized hearing. We are therefore appealing to all the stakeholders to cooperate with this committee and put the national interest above any form of personal or parochial interest. We are not on a self-serving mission. Rather, we are on a national mission that will significantly redefine the future of our dear country. Our mission is never to witch hunt any individual, corporate entity, or government agency, but to unravel the root causes of fundamental challenges within the petroleum industry and devise a legislative framework to discourage the activities of some rogue actors in the industry. This task is urgent, and the work begins now. We are ready to carry it out with all sense of honor and responsibility. We are also taking it seriously with a view to addressing fundamental issues that pose grave threats to our economic prosperity fiscal stability and public health as a federation. In line with our mandate, we will definitely unravel factors and forces aiding sabotage in our petroleum industry. From our findings, we will craft a legislative framework that will entrench global best practices in the industry, open it up for more investments, especially in the midstream and downstream sectors, and end vicious regimes of subterfuge in the petroleum industry. We are utterly committed to this mandate. We shall carry it out without fear or favor. We shall be equitable, fair, responsible, and just to all parties, with a view to promoting and protecting the strategic national interests of our fatherland. Together, dear stakeholders, let us work towards achieving transparency, accountability, and fairness within our petroleum industry. Your collaboration and support are invaluable as we strive to uphold the integrity of our nation's economic landscape. Again, before the last line, let me just emphasize that today's meeting is not a public hearing, and that's why in the course of my remarks, I'd specifically informed on when the public hearings would hold. We will hold from September 10th to the 12th. And within the next couple of weeks, what we're expecting to get from stakeholders and other members, interested members of public, will be their memoranda. And at the public hearing, they also will have time to speak to such memoranda. And the essence of today's meeting is, one, for us to be able to meet with the stakeholders and to be able to also make you to be a part of our agenda setting, and most importantly, to be able to appeal to all stakeholders in the meantime by saying, let the accusations and counter-accusations, stop. We understand the concern of Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians are concerned about ensuring that we do not kill local initiative and local investment will allow them to survive. Just like a lot of Nigerians are also concerned about ensuring that we do not consciously inaugurate a monopoly, which will not serve overriding public interests and which will not be consistent with global best practice standard. All these are issues. But in the meantime, while we work with you to address all of this, we call on all our stakeholders to just ensure that we do not unnecessarily make the system boil. The oil and gas industry for us is a very sensitive and technical one. The international community is interested in what is happening here. Our people are interested because it's the lifeline, of our economy. And
the GCO, Nnpcl, and all the other heads of parastatals and agencies here present. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to participate in a very important discussion. And we must thank the chairman of this committee for the way he has laid out the conversation. He has painstakingly explained the rationale and the history of where we are in the petroleum industry and why it is necessary to have a conversation including all the stakeholders, the executive, of course the legislature, the major companies and the major agencies involved. And he has also gone through the specific roles. And since this is the first of many interactions and interventions, I will just briefly say that where we are in terms of the petroleum industry in terms of crude oil production and sales, it's important to say that for the 2024 budget, we had estimated and projected 1.78 million barrels per day. We are below that target at the moment. Although production is moving up, I believe, and we have the experts here, but I believe we're at about 1.6 million barrels per day. And we have a commitment that we'll be able to reach 2 million barrels per day, and that is critical. And why it is critical is that is the first source that we look to for foreign exchange, as well as government revenue. And at a time where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies are geared at stabilizing the economy, a critical aspect of that is the inflow of foreign exchange to stabilize the exchange rate, enable the exchange rate even to appreciate, thereby helping to reduce inflation, and that will now lead to the central bank and the monetary authorities being in a position to lower interest rates and therefore encourage investment to get the economy going. And as we know, investment is the basis on which we can increase productivity, grow the economy, create jobs, and reduce poverty. So it is critical that Nnpcl, that the oil sector as a whole performs. And that's why the fiscal environment has been improved. We all know the oil is there. It is the investment environment that encourages private investors to come in, produce the oil, and therefore earn the revenues, especially in this era of moving away from fossil fuels. Nnpcl has even declared a war on oil production. We know of the issues of insecurity, issues of damage that have limited and made us come below the budget. Well, there is a commitment to dealing with these issues. And the focus also remains in the oil and gas industry in improving incentives. Already, Mr. President has signed some executive orders which have meant that oil and gas investments, particularly in the gas sector, have started to flow back. We saw a $500 million investment just a couple of weeks ago, and we are told that about $7 billion. There was a $500 million investment already made, and around $7 billion on the sidelines, waiting for the correct investment environment. The outlook for oil prices for the rest of this year and beyond is positive, is strong. We expect the price of oil to stay relatively high, and so we must seize this opportunity. Amongst other things, we must seize this opportunity to maximize the whole oil and gas sector value chain. And that's why we are here to discuss what it will take to get us really moving and maximizing. And so I welcome this all-important conversation, and I look forward to playing my own part in helping to achieve greater efficiency, greater investment, and greater success in our all-important oil and gas sector, particularly as we are discussing today, the petroleum industry. Thank you.
Also, honorable ministers, for being with us here as part of the executive arm of government, and my colleagues in the regulatory institution and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would have loved not standing today speaking about economic sabotage by any institution or any individual. Mr. Chairman, we are faithful, loyal, and committed to the progress and development of this country. We are Nigerians. I'm not sure we lie to this country. We do not, Mr. Chairman. It is our duty to protect the overall interests of this country by the provisions of the law, Mr. Chairman. The Petroleum Industry Act, the Company and Allied Matters Act, and other enabling regulations and laws that govern the activity of the oil and gas industry. Mr. Chairman, we are not in breach of any one of them. Mr. Chairman, the Nnpcl is a company owned by over 200 million Nigerians. And I happen to be the chief executive of this company. And the law is clear around what the chief executive of this company will do. Our memorandum article of association, the Petroleum Industry Act, and all other enabling, including CAMA, which was legislation by this Honorable National Assembly. They are clear that the board and management of Nnpcl must maximize value for this company, Mr. Chairman. This company cannot have negative profits for 3 years. The CAMA says you can shut it down. Mr. Chairman, it's our job to protect this company, but it's also our job to protect other businesses around us. Mr. Chairman, let me be specific. And I will wait for the public hearing, and I also agree with my Honorable Minister that it should be broadcast live so that Nigerians will hear us, so that all the misinformation that you see today will be put beside, so that Nigerians will know the truth. And all of us here see what's happening in the media. Targeted personal attack on my person, on the institution. And we all know how this works. They are deliberate, they are calculated, so that create the impression that the Nnpcl Limited and our leadership are doing anything to create economic sabotage in our country. It is far from it, Mr. Chairman. This company has grown, Mr. Chairman. We are proud to say this. From a loss company for 43 years to a profit-making company today, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it is very clear from everything you have said through this investigative hearing that you can see the majority of the issues you have raised have nothing to do with the Nnpcl Limited. Yet, everybody believes, by sheer misinformation, which my minister has highlighted, that Nnpcl is responsible for creating any economic sabotage in our country. Mr. Chairman, refining business is straight business. You must secure your feedstock, and you must secure a market. This is basic, even for Nnpcl refineries. And this determines what happens in a refinery, any refinery for that matter. Let me talk straight to this, Mr. Chairman. It's a perfect opportunity also. Mr. Chairman, we have done nothing to sabotage any domestic refinery. Any one of them. There are many of them. Some of them are small scale. Mr. Chairman, but there's a law that guides everything we are doing. Mr. Chairman, the law is clear. My colleague from Nnpcl is here. There's domestic crude oil supply obligation. Yes, what it is saying is that process it locally, provide for local refining, absolutely correct. But the law also said that there must be a willing buyer and a willing seller. It didn't say anything else. And perhaps the only way it cannot be so is for this National Assembly to change the law. And I would not recommend this. Mr. Chairman, secondly, and more importantly, Nnpcl has nothing to do with imports of products that are substandard. It is very clear, Mr. Chairman, there are rules, there are regulators. We follow the rules. Nobody will bring product into this country that doesn't make specifications. If it does happen, it's crime. It couldn't have passed through any regulatory institution. It is impossible. We all know what happens. Smuggling does take place. And I'm happy that the Customs Service is here. No one can deny that smuggling takes place across our border. But for PMS and every other commodity that you can think of, this is real. Mr. Chairman. When the details come, we will tell you what we know. Mr. Chairman, I suggest also that it should be staged live so that everybody will hear what is going on in the industry. And perhaps responding to our Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Energy, we engage. Mr. Chairman, today this country is producing about 1.65 million barrels today as of today. We have a clear target and a pathway, which is not just an NNPC-driven process, Mr. Chairman. You must put money before you can make money in the oil and gas industry. You must invest. You must have confidence of banks, and you must have confidence of investors. Today, Mr. Chairman, this National Assembly, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, have set several committees to look at local refining, to look at crude oil theft, vandalism. It is very, very clear that until we address this, no one is going to put his money into the upstream. And that's why NNPC took it headlong and got the support of Mr. President. Clearly, Mr. President understands that doing things different today, which is showing up, and I can share with you, Mr. Chairman, just a month and a half ago, we're actually down to almost 1.4 million barrels per day. It's simply an infrastructure unavailability issue associated with acts of vandals and oil thieves. Mr. Chairman, you will agree that NNPC is not a security organization. But yet, we got the support of Mr. President to set up an accelerated process of intervention, and it is paying off. You have to restore that confidence before you can talk about growth. Let me share something with you, Mr. Chairman. In the year 2020, during the COVID, Mr. Chairman, in one day, our production, without doing anything, we hit 2.47 million barrels per day, 17th of April, to be very specific, Mr. Chairman. And what happens? The thieves and the vandals went to sleep, because there's nowhere to take it to. The market went to sleep. And we now know that without doing anything, we have such capacity. But you can't achieve this until you are able to arrest the situation that is on ground, and I'm happy that this investigation will also bring back part of the reports, I'm sure, of previous Senate committee reports that we have seen, Mr. Chairman. And at the right time, we'll give you all the details, we'll take you through it. You will see the challenges that we are dealing with. That's not about NNPC Limited. It is beyond NNPC, but we also need your help. And I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, we will cooperate with you, with this committee, and the inclusion of this House of Representatives, so that we'll address fundamental issues in the industry that are still hanging, that may not even be within the remit of any one institution that is invited for this gathering, Mr. Chairman. It needs a collective response, Mr. Chairman. And I assure you, Mr. Chairman, the NNPC Limited and our board of directors and our shareholders are faithful, loyal to this country. We do not lie to this country, and we do nothing to sabotage the economic interests of this country. As a matter of fact, NNPC is the economic interest of this country, and we understand this very, very perfectly. Just also by the provisions of the law, and also, and I can share this with you, for me and my colleagues in the NNPC, even by conviction of faith, Mr. Chairman, we will do nothing. We believe there is eternal accountability, Mr. Chairman. Even if you don't unravel what is happening, we know that God knows, and that God will hold us accountable. And we're after no one. We are persecuting nobody. We are not criminals. We are not thieves. We are serving our country, and we believe very, very strongly that we are faithful, loyal to this country, and that this Senate, and I believe this very, very strongly, that we protect our dignity, so that we can serve this country. Tomorrow will come. That tomorrow may not be on this world. It will be in the hereafter. And we believe that there's eternal accountability. And we mean, and we understand very clearly that this president means well. This president has supported every process that is bringing back value to the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry is bleeding, Mr. Chairman. We can't speak. There are things we know we don't say. And that's why I agree with the Honorable Minister that even the things we won't say, we'll say them when the right time comes. That this country is bigger and greater than all of us, and we serve it. And Mr. Chairman, I confirm to you that the NNPC Limited will cooperate with this committee. We will be part of the solution. We will not be part of a problem. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman of this adult committee, very distinguished senators, the honorable ministers, my colleagues,
don't worry about
ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Let me just say that from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission that were... Thank you very much. Yeah, I am Benga Komolafe. I'm the Commission Chief Executive of Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. Distinguished senators, let me say that I'm very pleased for the opportunity to be here on behalf of the, that is Nnpcl, to be given the privilege for us to participate at this very important committee to give insight into our activities as the Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, at least to be able to inform Nigerians as to our role and, of course, have the opportunity to dispel some of the misinformation like the Honorable Minister has said and my other colleagues that have spoken. Mr. Chairman, I want to say, like some of my colleagues have said, that some of us serve this country, we sleep for less than 3 hours on a daily basis. That we are very patriotic Nigerians and we try to work within the ambit of the law. And that in the course of this investigative committee, we shall duly account for our stewardship as relates to the statutory mandate of the organization, of the committee. And specifically, as relates to the focus of this committee, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has effectively been able to implement the provisions of Section 109 of the PIA, which borders on the specific scope that the committee is looking at. And Mr. Chairman, in the course of the public hearing, we shall be informing Nigerians to the effect that the Nigerian oil sector, of course, which is in the eyes of the storm, and of course the expectation is there that for us to have a quick turnaround, ramp up production so that we can earn more forests, to stabilize the economy. That for me, again, to say that we have received so much support from dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in terms of incentives that have been given and all the efforts and activities that we have been making as the regulator to increase the national production. And let me say, Mr. Chairman, that the industry, that is the, especially the upstream of the Nigerian oil and gas sector, is facing very challenging moment in terms of, that is under investment, especially that has been impacted by the energy transition. And of course, the fact that collectively we need to create an enabling environment for investors to invest in the industry. It is a collective responsibility of all of us, the legislator, the executive, that is Nigerians as a whole, for us to create an enabling environment that we attract, make Nigeria a favorable destination for investment so that we can grow production. Of course, we are endowed with huge oil and gas reserves, but without investment, without ensuring that we are intentional as Nigerians to create a favorable environment, investors will not come and will continue to grapple with low production. So in the course of our presentation, we will be able to actually convince Nigerians about our stewardship, about the fact that we are very, very patriotic Nigerians. At least some of us, we are patriotic Nigerians and we are serving Nigeria with all our ability. thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
Don't worry, sir. Just keep. We know you are very respectful Nigerian.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity, not only to stand here, but to be invited so that I can hear our side. We're not here to give the details, but just to reassure the honorable committee that Nigerians have all had only one side of the argument. We have been bombarded, abused, accused, maligned, but we are not heard. So just like the honorable minister has said, it is an opportunity for Nigerians to hear from the side of not only Farouk Ahmed, but Nnpcl. So I actually am happy, I'm pleased, and elated that the hearing will be made public and live on TV, because we have been unfairly treated, not only by the Nigerian press, but the very senior Nigerians, very high, of high places, because of misinformation. Obviously, it's not their fault. It was information that was polluted, misrepresented. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to say too much, because I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much for